words to even try to explain to people what they are, but we thank you for them. Dear God, please be with us now as we try to take care of the budget of the parish. Please let us look at this closely, make the correct decisions that we need to make. We thank you for your son, Jesus. All these things in your name, amen. Amen. Follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What?
The sign-in book.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get it started. Thank you, sir. All right. Any guests or any additions or deletions to this budget? To this agenda? Hearing none. Any guest or public comments? Hearing none. Budget and financial items. Our first budget we're going to discuss tonight is the airport budget. So if y'all turn to that information, please, and we'll let Miss Lily tell us what we all are dying to know.
Good evening. I just gave y'all some copies of updated airport fund sheet. So what's on the computer, the only thing changing on that first page is the projected beginning fund balance should be $4,185,116, and then your ending fund balance is $3,899,893. This is due to a correction that we made on group insurance. We had made an error in doing a debit instead of a credit to that. So you have the paper one, the one on the screen. Like I said, your general revenues are staying the same. Proposed for next year is $227,425. Your program revenues, $395,758. Your expenses, the transportation, $613,848. Your capital outlay of $295,258. Giving us a decrease in fund balance of $285,923. If you go into the page by page on line items on your sheet. First, we have the airport fees, your hangar fees. We budgeted $37,500 last year. Our projected result is $36,246. So I'm budgeting or proposing a budget of $37,500 for next year. Fuel sales, we had budgeted $120,000 this year. Our projected results is at $98,288.77. So it's lower than our original budget. So for next year, we're proposing $90,000. Miscellaneous contribution and donations, we had budgeted $3,000. Projected result at the end of the year, $6,145. So we're proposing $4,000 next year. Interest on the account, we had budgeted $1,000. Our projected result is about $111.96. Still proposing about $1,000 next year, just because it really depends on the interest and expense and revenue allocation. That's how that's calculated. You will see on this column the interest earning on investments. There was no budget for this year. This is one of the things I had talked to y'all about. That was an entry done at the end of the year, which last year it was, my first year doing this, and this year actually close in the year let me know exactly what was spent on that. The projected result for that is $33,054.52. Proposing budget for 2024 is $30,000. Gain and loss on sales of investment. Right now, this year, we actually have had a gain. Last year, we had a loss. So this is one of those that, depending on the market and sale of bonds, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. My projections are to be at $80,925.96 gain. So I'm projecting $80,000 for next year. Now, just to let you know, this past month we actually had a loss. So, it was a small loss, but this fluctuates monthly. So it's just very hard to predict that. Lease in rental oil and gas. We had budgeted $75,000 this year. We are at $116,441 as of September. Not a lot's going to come in at the end of the year, so our projected result is $117,941.92. So our proposed budget is $110,000 for next year. Hay cultivation is budgeted at $2,425. Just sent that bill out today, so we should get that money in. So we're that lease is for, I believe it's for 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So we're proposing $2,425 for 2024. The state grants, I think we talked about this at Monday's meeting. That $700,000, we had that grant that did not get approved until we close out the current grants that we have. My projections at the end of the year for the grants that we currently do have is $49,203. For next year, we have $260,257.50, and you can see on the page, at the very end of the page, it gives you the projects. There's 3 of them that are 100% funded by the state. We have the airfield lighting system for $100,000, and we have the runaway obstruction removal phase 3 for $85,258, and we have the runaway taxi rehabilitation for $75,000. So that is, like I said, you'll see those on your capital outlay, and you see the revenue where they're 100% funded. We have a state reimbursement. Budgeted amount was for $7,000. We actually received a check already for $8,899.57. So our proposed budget is $8,000 for next year. So our total revenues proposed for 2024 is $623,182.50. Sorry. If we go into our expense side of it, salaries, we'll end up at the end of the year at about $126,719.79. Our proposed budget is $148,038.81. This does include a 3% COLA. And Miss Jackie is asking for a full-time general clerk to be budgeted in here. We'll go to the personnel board or personnel committee and ask for approval of that, but she had asked me to put a full-time position. Right now, she does share a half person with building and maintenance. She's paying 40% of that position right now. So it's about $28,000, I believe, but she's already paying, like I said, 40%. She shares I say a part-time, but we have a full-time person that's dedicated 40% of the time to the airport and 60% of that time to the building and maintenance department. She's asking us to go ahead and let her get her own person that is 100%. So that's why your salaries are $148.38.81. Like I said, it does include 3% COLA. Your overtime, we're projected to be about $38.59 with 19 cents. I'm budgeting $3,700 for next year. Then you have your Social Security, expected to be at $9,517.90, budgeting $11,608.02. Retirement, $9,793.42. Expected to be at $11,380.41 for my proposed 2024. Our group insurance, the projections for at the end of 2023 is $31,886.38. Our proposed budget for 2024 is $43,171. This includes a 29% increase. I'm hoping that will come down, but right now this is what I'm working with. We're having a meeting with them actually tomorrow, so I'm hoping to have better news, and if we have something better, then we can readjust these figures. But as of right now, it's a 29% increase. You'll see that it's got 35% difference on here. That is, if we were to hire a full-time person, we'll need to allocate money for that. Legend, the end result at the end of 2023 is $3,527.82. So I have budgeted $3,900 for that. Official fees, we haven't spent anything, but usually I just like to budget $150 each year. Just in case we have any kind of advertisement or anything that needs to be done. You also see in here the investment fees for U.S. Bank. Did not have an original budget for that. We have spent $7,150.74. Expected to spend $9,534.32. So I'm budgeting $10,000 for next year. This is all fees that we pay for those investments. So just like you're seeing the gain in interest earning on investments, we do have fees associated with that. And we have our professional fees. This year we're expected to end at $953.33. I'm budgeting $3,500, and that's in anticipation of having those projects where we may end up needing to have some consulting. Dues and advertisement, we ended up at $524 is my projection, so I'm budgeting $1,000. Utilities, our original budget was at $36,000 this year. Expected to be at $28,748. So that's a decrease of about $6,000. So I'm dropping that to $30,000. Phone, expected to be at $5,749.93. So I'm budgeting $6,000. The lease expense, our budget is $19,600. Expected to be at $18,689.19. I'm budgeting about $18,600. Now you will see on your capital outlay, we have requested a vehicle that it expires, the lease expires at the end of this year. Actually, I think it expired this at the end of September. So we have talked to Mr. Baker about trying to kind of get away from the lease program, but, you know, in order to do that, we will have to pay the lease agreement next year, and on top of that, go ahead and budget for a vehicle that we may get maybe at the end of 2025 if we're lucky. I mean, there's timing issues on that. But we were asked a while back to kind of see what cost savings there were with the lease program. Haven't found any, so if we're trying to get, you know, away from that and start building our fleet back up, you're gonna see the expenses for the fleet and then an expense to budget to get a new vehicle. The rental equipment, trying to see, lost my place. We had budgeted $11,400. Our estimated end of that is $2,850. We were paying about $900 for some services for equipment for the tanks. Ms. Jackie went ahead and got rid of that. There was no need for that, so we don't have anything budgeted for that next year. Maintenance on equipment, we had originally budgeted $28,000 this year, expected to be at $16,539. So I'm dropping that down to $20,000. Insurance, general workman's comp. Our original budget was for $23,580. We'll end up the year at $17,485.14. We did have some substantial savings last year on our property and casualty insurance, so I'm budgeting $20,000 for that. Technology expense, that's anything dealing from the internet to computer to copier leases. This is our first year that we split costs from office expense versus what's anything dealing with technology. So we had budgeted $16,000. We're gonna end up coming over budget by $18,318.39. So I'm budgeting $20,000 for next year. Maintenance of building and grounds, we budgeted $40,000. Roughly gonna be at $39,943.44. So I'm budgeting $40,000 on that. Aviation, jet, and fuel, this is the fuel that we buy, and of course we sell. You see the fuel sales at the top of the revenues. We budgeted $130,000. Expected to be a $93,484.22. So I'm budgeting $95,000. Fuel, gasoline, and diesel. We budgeted $4,000. End result at $3,519.81. So I'm budgeting $4,000 for 2024. Office expense, we budgeted $2,500. We'll end up roughly about $4,296.32. So I'm budgeting $4,500 for next year. Under materials and supplies, we budgeted $4,700, expected to be at $7,675.84. I'm budgeting $7,700 for 2024. The fly-in, balloon, and festival expenses, we ended up budgeting $82,000 last year. We budgeted $82,000 for this year. We spent $68,000. However, we did not have the fly-in. I'm budgeting $82,000 for next year too, in anticipation that maybe we'll end up having the fly-in too. Small equipment purchases, we got $4,000 budgeted, expected to be at $985.49 at the end of the year. So I dropped that to $3,000 for next year. The office equipment, budgeted $3,000 this year, Haven't spent any money on that. Kind of leaving that alone for next year too, just in case there's some need that they may need office equipment out there that, may break. Travel and convention, 3,500 was budgeted for 2023. Have spent 939. Will be at 1739.03 is my projection. So I'm leaving that at 3,500 for 2024. Then we have our inmate crew. Our budget for that is 20,100. Projected to be at 18,480 with 30 cents. So I'm budgeting $20,100. Overall, we did projected to have spent less money than we actually budgeted for, and it's still 2023's budget was $629,510. This year's the proposed budget for 2024 is $613,848.24. Capital outlays, like I told y'all before, on the revenue side, you see that 260,258 is 100% covered by the state. The additional $35,000 is for a vehicle to replace the one that the lease has expired. Like I explained to you earlier, we do have to pay that lease until we're able to get that new vehicle. So overall, with that, you're including the capital outlay, you end up with expenditures of $909,105.74, a net and change balance of $285,923.24, and then your beginning fund balance is $4,185,816.30. Expected fund balance for 2024 is $3,899,893.06. Does anybody have questions on the airport budget?
Yes.
Just one. Is it a cost share for the sheriff department? I mean, do we break it out by?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all.
I think 25% of the contract for them.
Airport, okay.
Miss Lilly, on the aviation and jet fuel, why are we paying for more than what we're selling?
There's always a reserve amount in there, in the tanks. Like, you're never going to be, like, we're paying or we're selling 90,000 and we're spending 95. When they're fueling in, you're never gonna have an even number.
We're not starting at zero, though, are we?
No. You're collecting 90 out of the 95 that you're spending. You're always gonna be more in expenditures, so you can have the tanks filled up. It's an inventory, is really what it is. And maybe Miss Jackie, do you have any?
Yeah, I was just looking at this year. You show that you sold 98,000. I'm sorry, 93,484, and we bought 98,000. So you should already have 4,800 extra. So
September.
now we're gonna have 4,800 extra plus 5,000 extra. It's not that big of a deal. It's $5,000, but still, I was asking for principal, not really for dollar amount. And how many vehicles do they have now for the airport?
3.
But all three cars, or? And those aren't courtesy, right?
Mhm.
I've got to follow up on Kyle's question with the gas. Eventually, it should turn the other way. If you go out there and you fill the tank up, and you absorb that expense in 1 year, fill that tank up, so the next year, the tank's already full. So the next year, you should show a profit. I don't know, you can't keep showing $6,000 every year in a fuel loss.
Okay, you're not. If you look at the fuel sales, the projection result for the fuel sales is at 98,288.77. And our projection on expenses is 93,484.22. I know it's not a whole lot of gain in there, but I'm not sure how those prices are set or how that's handled. But looking at this, I'm not showing a loss there.
The price of the gas doesn't matter. This year, we budgeted for 130,000 that we bought, but we only budgeted to sell 120,000. You follow that?
Yes,
So that's $10,000 extra fuel we have.
correct. That will be in inventory. Like, y'all don't see
But we didn't
The
sell
assets.
120 or 130. We only
No.
sold 98.
that's our projections, yes.
So there ought to be a lot of fuel somewhere.
To tell you the truth, the only real way to look at that is to look at the amount of gallons, because the price of the fuel fluctuates so much. You can't necessarily look at the prices or
Yeah.
the dollar amount. We're gonna have to see how many gallons we bought and how many gallons we sold to see whether or not. And once you buy gasoline at $7 a gallon and you're selling it for $7.25 or $7.50 a gallon, I'm just using those numbers because I don't know what aviation fuel is. But if you're using your price, if you're keeping your prices to go with the market, then after you buy at a high price and the price comes back down next month, do y'all lower your prices? You wait till you sell all of that at that price first. That's right. So, until all that fuel is gone.
Right now, we're sitting at 6,000 of low lead, and we're having 6,000 right now gallons of jet. So we're sitting with 12,000 gallons total of fuel in those tanks.
Yeah.
So the inventory is there at the airport. So I make sure from perspective as far as if I know that we buy that fuel at $3.10, we're gonna sell it at least $4. We're gonna try to get more and be competitive with the market to bring them in.
Yeah.
We don't wanna give the fuel away.
That's what I'm saying. You can't buy, you try to buy not as much as you just what you need when the price is high, and possibly buy more when it's low, so that possibly you can,
When it's low enough we can get, but we make sure we stay competitive, but we also make sure we stay not only competitive, but make sure we are profiting off the fuel that we purchase.
yes. But in order for us to really see the fuel sales, we'd have to see the amount of gallons purchased compared to the amount of gallons sold, basically.
Because we do have 6,000 in each tank right now, so we want to know that's what we are currently.
Well, mathematically, that wouldn't help you unless you know what you paid for those gallons.
But yeah, I mean, you got to realize you got to sell it for more than what you bought it for. You can't lower the price on it before you sell that $4 fuel, lower it back down below that. That's right.
It just doesn't look right on this piece of paper. That you say you're gonna sell $90,000 of fuel, but you're gonna pay $95,000 for it. That doesn't look right. So somehow we gotta make that look right.
This is up until September, because we've sold more, I mean, I know it's a projection, but we have one sale at just $6,000 alone, one sale from Cessna Citation 5. So I know that we're moving the jet.
And just, on that point, and that may be something we'll have to correct, Mr. Baker. We are doing, this is one of those end of the year entries that Jackie brings me all the paper and we'll go by how much fuel she bought, how many gallons, how much were they, how much we spent, and versus having, this is what we have in inventory, is one of those end of the year entries that we may have to start doing on a monthly basis so y'all can kind of tell that, yes, we are making a little bit of profit on that and our numbers are better. This is one of those things that I'm hoping with the new system that we'll have next year going live on April with that will make it easier to do. Right now, it is a yearly entry that's been done. I don't get any of those figures from her until the end of the year to make that final entry. So, like I said, that is something I can start getting from Jackie every month and start reconciling and having that entry done so these numbers could start reflecting that inventory and exactly having a better grasp.
If there's some way on there just to show gallons bought, gallons sold.
That really
Yeah.
wouldn't help you though, because you don't know what they paid per
Paid
gallon
for yeah.
or what they sold it for per
This
gallon.
is one of those things that we don't currently have an inventory system for this kind of stuff, that it is a part of the module that we'll end up getting to where I get an invoice from fuel, we put it in there. You put a price based on what you're paying, and then when you're selling it, you're putting how much gallons you took out and how much you're paying. It's an inventory module. The only thing I did find out that it's not first in, first out. It's more of an average. So I'm still probably not going to get a good figure, but it's better than not having anything that we do right now.
How much do y'all try to mark the fuel up?
We at least try to make $1.10 off the fuel.
Just try to make $1.10 a gallon. So,
Well, we're actually making, looking for more than that, about $1.50 off the ticket.
okay.
This is really,
No certain percentage that you mark it up. If the price goes up, you mark it up and, certain percentage or 25% or something like that, huh?
I haven't looked at, I try not, I have looked at least 20%. If the price goes up, to see what I can get it up, to stay comparable, competitive, so I don't work us out of selling the fuel at the same time.
And then most of the customers, I guess, use like a credit card.
They do, they use a credit.
And are we getting hit with some pretty big fees on that? I mean, our markups, I know some of those,
Fairly.
No, because they, well, Lily had those fees for the fuel charge.
some of those credit cards charge pretty good for use of them.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if it breaks it down. I don't think I have it broken down, but I can give y'all that. That is a journal entry that I am doing monthly, and it varies. Some months can be $40 compared to other months, depending on what they're selling, could be anywhere for, $400, $300. But I will say on an average a month on those fees, it's anywhere between $200 to $350.
So the vehicle that the lease is matured on, we can buy that for the reduced book value, right?
No, Enterprise's contract that the jury authorized 5 or 6 years ago does not allow for us to purchase their vehicles. They have to go back to Enterprise. Enterprise is prohibited from selling those vehicles to us. I've asked that question last year.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why they put a reduced book value and a service charge due at lease termination on their contract then.
don't know. I wasn't here when the contract was signed, so. I do know that we're losing money on those contracts, the maintenance, and once you have a component of the lease, which is for the vehicle, then you have a component of the lease, which is for maintenance. And after you're out of your term, you no longer pay the maintenance portion, but you're responsible for 100% of the maintenance. Now, everything under the maintenance program itself, you are paying for, I think, one brake job and maybe 2 oil changes. It's not much, so
Yeah, but you're
not a big
paying
deal.
$86.56 a month times 60 months for one brake job.
I agree. I completely. That's why we need to get out of the lease
And
program.
we've got, what, 4 mechanics?
Yeah.
Brake pads are $120.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I just was asking if we could just buy that, because I'm sure the airport vehicles can't get that many miles on their vehicle.
Yes, but we did ask that question with Enterprise, and the way that, that contract was put out, we can't. If we would have taken quotes for that lease and advertised and gotten more than 3 quotes, then there was a possibility that we could, but we didn't do that with that lease program, so it has to go back to the dealership.
And when is that lease up, the airport car lease?
That is actually, it expires September of this year,
So we exercise an additional 12-month option, up to 12 months,
up to 12 months.
in order to purchase a vehicle to replace that. Or you can renew, and I've made it clear that to all the department heads, we're not doing any more renewals. I was going to put it to the jury to see if we can purchase to replace vehicles over time.
Anybody have any other questions? If you have none, I'll take a motion to accept this budget for the airport.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Being none, y'all vote now, please. Motion passes. We'll go to the next one.
Which one is that?
Animal services.
Okay.
Okay, you will see on your first sheet, projected fund balance will be 40,796. Program revenues, 27,500. Expenses, you're looking at 648,523. Capital outlay, it is for purchase of 2 vehicles that their lease, one of them expires December 31st. The other one expires January 31st of 2024. In order to balance this budget with the beginning fund balance and not having a deficit at the end of the year, it is proposed to transfer $670,000 from the general fund. That's still, like I said, it's a net decrease of $40,273. But using that projected beginning balance will leave you a fund balance of $523.
Mr. Baker,
Yes, sir.
do we have to go line by line on each one of these, or can she just hit the high points or something if she wants to point out?
She can hit the, yeah, and I think she would
Okay.
appreciate that.
I would
think me and Mr.
appreciate
Mitchell
that.
got it over here.
I would
If y'all have any
appreciate that.
questions,
We'll
Yeah,
stop
it-
her.
going to, just
Yeah,
stop.
stop me and let me know. On the projected revenue, we transfer 500,000 into the fund at the first of the year, and then donations and fees and fines came up to, I'm projecting 24,862. So our projections for 2023 on the revenue side is 524,862. For next year, really not increasing much on the fees, fines and donations. I'm proposing 27,500, and then the transfer in would be 670,000 from the general fund. On the salaries, we had a proposed budget this year for 278,879. Our projected result on that is 263,809. She's got 7 positions. There's 1 position that hadn't been filled all this year. She is now fully staffed with 7 positions. We had a person that just started in October. Now, my proposed budget of 342, 362.79 for 2024, it is, she is asking to see if we would approve. There's two part-time positions that were originally authorized for the mosquito control. She is asking to see if the committee would approve funding those and then going to the personnel board committee. I'm sorry. That is roughly 28,000 that she's asking for that. So you see a 3% COLA and a 28,000 for those 2 positions that are part-time. And like I said, you're seeing the difference on those because she just is now fully staffed, and this is fully staffing with 7 positions and then getting 2 part-times. And then the COLA. Everything else, like I said, Social Security, of course, is based on a percentage, so is retirement. The biggest thing here, again, it's going to be your insurance going up. We'll end up at the end of this year with 39,671, and that is, she had budgeted 30,237. There's some in her staff that do not have insurance currently, but the person that we just hired, they did take insurance, and that's why you see that difference in there. For next year, budgeting 61,271. Once again, that is 29% increase in that new person that just started in October that did take insurance. I'm really hoping once again that we come with better news for y'all after my meetings with the insurance committee or tomorrow morning, and kind of see if we can drop from 29% to something more bearable for us. Going down, I would say that one of the items that is different for next year, we have the maintenance of equipment. Let me see where, I don't have my ruler with me, so.
We don't either. If you could change colors on the lines.
On the
or put
lines?
it would greatly help us.
Let's see.
5750 in this year.
Yeah, 5750, and I'm projecting 10,000 for next year. She has told me that there's some maintenance needs for the incinerator that will have to happen next year, so that's why you see an extra 5,000 in there. Everything else, it's kind of within the same. Building and maintenance and grounds, projected to be at 16,434, kind of putting that at 18,000 for next year. However, that did come in under from this year's budget of 22,000. Dropped down her physicals to 500. Our biggest change in here for about 10,000 is your supplies and drugs. We had budgeted 35,000, projected to be about 44,000. So budgeting 45,000 for that. And I'm not sure on the increase on that. I don't know if Barbie at the end of this can explain on some of that, or Barbie, or you want to come and explain.
A lot of it is just the drug cost with everything in COVID. Pharmaceuticals went up. Gone to a different way where my professional fees, as far as surgical fees and different things, vouchers. We've done a little bit of bartering with our vets and trying to get that down, which we've lowered. But drug fees I can't really change. Fortunately, that's flea and tick control and stuff like that to get them out or, in, and I have to hold them, and the care that we're coming in is pretty.
Travel and convention, we had $4,000 budgeted this year. We expect it to be over budget by about $550. I budgeted 5,000 just because they do have that new personnel too that's gonna need to be certified. So that puts, like I said, looking at the expenditures, we had budgeted this year 568.80. Projections to be at 523,142. And then next year's budget is 648,522. Like I said, the biggest thing on that, it is your COLA and asking for the 2 part-time positions to be reclassified, and just that this will be in 2024, it's fully staffed. I mean, you see the decrease on the end result of this year, but like I said, that she hadn't been fully staffed this year. The capital outlays, like I mentioned before, we have 2 vehicles that those leases are expiring. Pretty much we have a pickup budgeted at $47,250, and then a cargo van budgeted at $42,000. That is piggybacking off of City of Alexandria, and the sheriff took out a bid for vehicles, so that's where our numbers are coming from. So that's 89,250 total. So total expenditures on that will be 737,772.55. Like I said, we'll have a net change in fund balance of 40,272.55. The estimated beginning balance is 40,796, leaving a fund balance ending at 2024 of 523.45. Questions at this time?
Go ahead.
The 2 reclassified personnel out there, were you reclassifying from what to what? You said
From
they were
mosquito control, part-time mosquito control to part-time, probably general office clerks or, that they have out there. Yes, sir.
So I noticed the fleet lease expense, it's not going down at all, but we're buying 2 new vehicles. Are these 2 new vehicles gonna be sitting in the parking lot, or are they gonna?
No, sir. If we buy these 2 vehicles, we will not get them until, like I said, 2025.
Well,
That's being hopeful.
yeah, we think some of them will come as late as 2025. We may get some of them in 2024, but you have to put the order in so early. That's the problem.
And, we're pretty much full now at the shelter, correct? This isn't taking shots. This is asking questions that I'm put here to do. If you're full, and it's my recollection, you're pretty much full every month, all the time. So if we don't build you a better building or bigger building or more space, you can't take any more.
I stay as full as, I mean, I send out as quick as I can. If adoption goes out, I work off the waiting list. Try to get in as many as we can, making it, the movement happen as quickly as we can. We have the holding period as we bring them in, which is pick up off the street. You know, if they have collars, they have to wait 5 days. If they have no collars, we have to give stray holds. So I am limited as to how quickly, we managed to make it work very good. Trying to work with our rescues and getting them out. About 30 to 40 animals out at a time to a rescue. Some months are better than others, of course, but on an average of, you know, intake is constant. I mean, I have a waiting list of about 20, 30 dogs on a waiting list to come and get. I just picked up 6 today and have no place to put them. And then got a call from the sheriff's department that I had 2 more to go get. So it's a constant.
I understand. And I also understand we'll never put a den in the dogs on the street either. I mean,
Sir, it's
we can't build a shelter big enough.
been really rough right now, and people are just dumping on the street. And I know it's economy, everything we're getting from even our rescue groups, trying to help us and support best friends, things like that. Working on going in a collaboration with them to possibly get a little help. They actually help funding, right? Called in the way of helping us build an expansion that way too. So they actually do some things that way. So I'm looking at other ways to try to help so that we can get even more out of DeSoto. They work with the rural group, and so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, and I only say all that to say that, you know, we've got to explain to the public or to our voters that we're increasing the budget 41%, but we're not increasing capacity 1 dog or 1 cat.
Well, the problem is at this point, when I have no staff there, because my ACOs are out on the streets, there's nobody answering their phone calls. They're going, I can't get anybody.
No, I understand. I totally understand that. And here
And
again, I'm not,
And I understand I can't make any more. I try my best. I don't know how to make it.
I'm just saying, we need, between you and finance, we need you to help us, help you. That we can't, I mean, we can't year on year give 3% COLAs, 29% increase in health insurance, and then add this extra stuff, because if you keep adding that to every department, we're gonna be using 100% of our revenue quickly. And we're not gonna have money to do, and so it's hard for us to explain to people that are out there, and you realize, I realize, there's a lot of people out there that don't even want the shelter. I'm not saying that. We need the shelter, but we need to be responsible with the funding for the shelter. And all I'm saying is a 41% increase is a large number when we're not telling the public, we're not providing one more service, other than we might answer the phone a little more timely. But if and I'm just hypothetical, I think you called them the ACOs, if an ACO is out on the road and we're full, why can't one go in there and answer the phone and they rotate who's out in the field?
But the problem being is if we go, a lot of times when we're going out into the community, letting them know their ordinances and what they're responsible for as
Right.
pet owners, most of the time what we're getting slapped with is we'll just take it. I can't take it anywhere. So then that adds another one to my waiting list. It's a
No, I get it.
cycle.
And maybe we can forward the phone if y'all are away. Maybe we can forward the phone to Cynthia, and Cynthia can answer the phone. She's gonna kill me for that comment. I'm just hypothetical. No, I mean, I prefer a human answering it since it's taxpayers' money. But I'm just saying, I hope you understand that it's not that we don't want you to have more people, but another person doesn't just cost us that salary. It costs us a lot of other things too, and then it costs us 3% every year if we go based off history. Plus, I'm sure somebody's going to want a merit increase at some point, a step increase, whatever we call it these days of the jury. So, I mean, it's going to cost us 6% every year. So if we add one, we pretty much know we're going up 6% next year, regardless of health insurance or maintenance costs or drug cost inflation or anything else. So I'm just saying you know, and I understand what Lily told me yesterday, that we're taking two positions that are already earmarked as holes to fill. They're just not funded holes right now. We're taking those that were doing a different function of mosquitoes, and now we're reclassifying those to animals. And so we're, you know, that's it's just hard to swallow and explain to the public that we're taking a service away from them, but we're still going to charge you for it. You know, that's kind of what we're telling them.
Okay, but the service has been gone for 2 years.
I'm not talking about the mosquito. I'm just saying we took the mosquito people away,
Yes, sir.
but now we're putting them back, but we're not providing that service.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
And the killing thing about it is, when we cut mosquito control off, or mosquito services, whatever you want to call it, our budget was up to about this $670,000 that year. And now we're back up to the $670,000, and we still have cut that service.
And we can't take a dog.
And we can't take, that's right. And I don't understand why we have a waiting list for people to drop dogs off at our facility anyway. I thought we were basically just to pick up strays. That was our goal, or our,
Hold everything that comes in.
I beg your pardon?
I have to hold everything I pick in because it may be your pet that got out. We
Well,
have
I understand you
automatic
have to hold them, but you said we had a waiting list of
We have
people
that
wanting to.
they're strays, and we use them as fosters a lot of times, and the community's been really big and helpful. So our stray that are being dumped in their yards, and people are not coming and taking responsibility for them.
They're holding them.
That's my waiting list.
Okay,
They're keeping them until you have a slot.
Until I can get, that's my waiting list.
but that's not the owners. Okay,
Right.
I thought they were the owners waiting to bring them and drop them off.
No, sir, it's
Okay.
just, they're helping me being in-place fosters.
Yeah.
For like, we give them the community donations that we get in. We give them the food to help hold them there for that stray a lot of times, until I can get that spot in the next time to bring them in.
I understand now. I thought we had, dog owners or pet owners waiting to turn their dogs in. They wanted to get rid of them. They didn't have any place to go, so they're, okay.
And we work with the owner surrenders the same. I mean, we just, as soon as we can get them in, I use a lot of fosters. We just don't have a lot, because most of your DeSoto Parish residents have a lot of dogs already. And I would love to put in place that they couldn't have 23 dogs on their property, because the next call I get, I have to go take all 23 because they're not taking care of them. But it's the way in balance.
Yeah, I think most of your fosters are in my district, because when I knock on the door, there's about 4 dogs that come to the door.
There's a lot over there, yes, sir.
What's your,
How many dogs or animals on average are in your system, foster in the facility?
On a normal month, I usually take in on a hold and bring in and taking out. So the normal count is about 120 to 150 on an average each month. That's holding within the system, holding in fosters, and shipping out too. So I count all of that each month.
And how many do you house? I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell.
On an average, there is usually about 60 cats, which is a very high number. We try to keep it about 40 because they will break with upper respiratory and ringworm. And on dogs and cats, or dogs itself, usually about 30 to 35, depending on if it's puppy season and how many puppies I have.
what's your capacity?
My capacity should be about 23.
Okay. How many do you have?
Right now, I have 42.
Okay. What about euthanization? How many,
I do.
how many a month?
A month, on an average, about 20.
20?
Yes, sir.
That's your sickly dogs?
That's my sickly, my aggressive that I can't send out for adoption, that would not be suitable for me or comfortable for me to send out to a family. Feral cats.
So we pay, because I like numbers,
Yes, sir.
we pay roughly $877 per animal that you have every month in that kennel. If you assume 40 cats and 35 dogs. Based off of the projected budget.
Well, you'd have to project the whole month, which would be 100 something each month, right? Because I'm also moving 30 to 40 out. So there's
No, I'm
not-
saying, okay, maybe I stated it wrong. Per slot for an animal. Per kennel.
But my slot doesn't hold that same animal the whole month.
No, I understand. That's why I said it's per kennel. So it costs us $900 to have a kennel in your building up there a month. That's why and that seems like a high number, and that's why I'm saying we have to be responsible with adding people, because that's gonna drive that number up instead of bring that number down.
Got one more question. How many employees do you have up there?
7 right at this moment.
7 full-time?
Yes, sir.
That includes her as well.
Well, yeah,
Yes, sir.
but it doesn't include the other two.
No, sir.
No,
So that would be 9.
If this goes, gets passed, and we get to the point to ask for 2 temporary people, nothing about that needs to be tied in with mosquito control. It just needs to be asked for 2 part-time people for animal control. Mosquito control has nothing to do with this. We cancel mosquito control.
Correct.
So there is no part-time position open for mosquito control.
That is correct.
So just ask for 2 part-time people for animal control. Additional part-time people.
Excuse me.
So move.
Second.
Well, I'm gonna say one more thing.
Okay.
I have been probably, one of the stronger proponents for animal control. I don't know why I get this weepy crap. But anyway. But like, Kyle was saying, and I'm glad he said what he said, there comes a point in the time, though, that we just can't keep adding money. You know, even though I realize expenses happen, you know, I don't know if somehow, and I'm not advocating this, but I am advocating that we look at what is actually required of us by the state to actually do. You know, that's the minimum, what the state, you know, and then go from there. I'm not advocating at all that, you know, yes, I would like to have this number same as it was last year that we carried from the general fund, $500,000. Yes, I would like that. I could very easily go with the $500,000 plus the expense of the trucks, because that's not your fault. That's because we made a mistake or went the wrong way and started leasing vehicles instead of owning them, which we can keep them running for a whole lot longer than we can keep them leased. Especially some vehicles that just aren't used very much. You know, so we're gonna make a motion. I don't know if the 3 of us will pass this or not. The problem's the next one. That's the problem, because I know Mr. Holmes is not real big on the animal control, and I understand Jimmy's
No,
point.
I love animal control.
Yeah.
I just don't like funding it with
Without-
funds we
without
don't
a-
have to
without a
fund it.
source.
That's right, without
Yeah.
a source. That's the
And-
only place I'm against.
And that's the Egyptian of really the ones who might object to this, is that it's funded without a source. And I don't know why the people of DeSoto won't spend a little bit of money and fund this, because the last tax, it just wasn't very much money out of somebody's pocket. That's just all there was to it. But anyway, I need you to, in the future, to maybe look at ways, not drastic, but to to scale it back. I ain't talking about anything drastic. Just look. Find out for us what the state actually requires this parish to provide, and then we need to maybe look at building upon that. I am no way want to come in here and cut, we can't cut 250, we can't cut 300,000 or 400,000 out of it and have a service. I understand that. But this will always, you got the toughest job in the parish. As far as any of our bosses, you got the toughest job in the parish because you're doing a service nobody wants to pay for. And we're always gonna ask you, can you cut the money? So, one day you're gonna tell me, there ain't no way, Greg, no more, it's cut as low as it cut, so.
Well, I mean, as far as the two positions, that was put on there because it was mosquito. And it was proposed out there because it would help the service to the community because they can at least give them the answers, hey, my AC's out. If it's emergency, I have somebody right there answering. I don't have to have those. Those were there on the books. It was proposed to do that. I'm working very diligent to keep our costs down. And I think I've done a pretty good job in that, considering the price increase on a lot of the drugs and things. But, I mean, I will definitely look at all of it. Fine.
Would it be all right if we just eliminate those 2 additional part-times right here in this meeting?
Yes, sir.
Kyle,
Sir.
you all right with eliminating the 2 part-time?
I am. I was gonna belabor the point just a little bit longer when you finished.
Okay, well,
Only because this is always a hot topic, and I
Right.
would rather discuss it while it's somewhat civil
Yes, sir.
than later on. And I want you, trying to think of how to word this cautiously. If the message gets out between now and when this goes to the full jury, that 250 people need to show up and we need more money, me personally, I feel like that's gonna go even further against what we're telling you right now. It's gonna harm the department worse than it's gonna help the department. It's my 2 cents, may be wrong. But I'm glad Mr. Baker mentioned that about the people, because I failed to mention a minute ago that the people have voted this down, unfortunately, several times. So we look like they already call us buffoons because we gave all that money and it was never desired or passed or whatever. Me personally, I have told your supporters and people on the other side that we have some requirement based off law, according to the sheriff and a light research, to have this department, and we need this service. And so I've reasonably voted to fund it. But I can't reasonably vote to fund it and increase it every year, like I said, when we know costs are going to continue to go up. And I don't know, I can't tell you what you have to cut. That's a tough decision. But I think you knew that when you took the job. That's a tough department. And knowing all the past history of the voting and stuff, maybe one day they pass the tax, but it won't be in my term because I'm going out. But Mr. Baker, I'm almost. I think this is going to take up a ton of time when we have the full jury. If we don't pass this, the same as last year funding plus the capital outlay, like you just discussed. I'm afraid if we go much beyond that, that it stands to either not pass or it stands to be a nightmare of a meeting. I'd like yours and Mr. Mitchell's thoughts and Mr. Holmes.
yeah, that's the number that I would be more comfortable with presenting to the whole jury is something, say, 600,000. Which I don't know how much the two part-time actually changes this, Lily.
I would say roughly about 28,000, close to 30, plus I'll have to calculate social security and all that. Well, social security would be, about the only one, and I'll go ahead and go back again now, like I said, now that she's fully staffed, to make sure my numbers, are workable, because I'm not sure,
And
the
if you
rate of that new person is, that just, like I said, she just started.
Well, and if you save some on group insurance in the morning, that'll
Yes.
come off of group insurance and be added to her slush fund, so to speak.
Yep.
Do you have any idea or any thoughts? And Ms. Barley, I know you've heard, but the sheriff has also offered to help with inmates if we can figure out a way to cross some bridges that need to be crossed, as far as like having somebody over there licensed to watch them or to let them go to, or whatever that term is.
They have to be qualified and certified to be on site.
But I'm thinking, you know, and I haven't discussed this with him. There are I know Caddo, there are inmates at Caddo that go to work in businesses for the day, and then they pick them back up in the afternoon. And I don't think those positions have deputies there with them all day. I think they're released to that boss, aren't they?
Their ACOs are actually certified to carry, and that's where the problem is. They have to be certified deputies.
Well, I'm not talking about in animal control. I'm just talking about in businesses, in construction, in landscaping businesses. I know Caddo takes inmates and drops them off for the day. So I'll check on that in the morning with the sheriff. I don't know if we have a program like that or have the capability to do that.
The only thing we've ever checked into was trying to get, and they told me we had to become reserve officers, and they would have to go through that course. And unfortunately, none of my ladies are gonna be able to do that at this point. Now, I have a couple young ones that might, but I don't.
Well, and I know that's at first that's an eerie feeling, having somebody in orange around you.
Well, they come and help us.
But it's not. I mean, I know the ones that work at the training facility, they carry on a regular conversation with you. Matter of fact, they usually tell you why they're in there and how they want to stay away from it when they get out.
Well, we get a lot of them, they come and help us because we'll get big loads, truckloads of food, stuff like that. And we call them and ask them to come help us. They do our yards. They're with us a lot of times, helping us, so we're not throwing our backs out and everything. So we do have dealings with them, it's just not on a basis of permanent as far as.
Do you like that 600 number, Mr. Baker? Is that? I haven't done the math, but
But I don't see where you're gonna cut it at,
Yeah.
you know, unless you cut employees further.
well, you know you're at 523 this year.
Yeah, so you take 5 plus the 27,500, which is her income, and then you add the other to it, the truck vehicles to it, so that's what? Ain't got good enough math. That's 610, 615, 620. Telephone ads.
Well, I would wonder if you would accept if we make that alternate motion to make that bottom number change, and then allow Miss Lily to go do her magic on the spreadsheet, adjusting the salaries, adjusting the extra people, adjusting the insurance after tomorrow, and let's just see where it falls. When she takes all that out.
Okay, I will take a motion to defer animal control's budget to next Thursday.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll defer this until Ms. Lilly can make a few changes, and then we'll see what number we're gonna come up with.
What's next?
East Side Sewer?
ARPA.
ARPA.
Did I miss that one?
Arthur, this one's pretty quick.
Oh, yes. This one, pretty much by next year, we have to have this fund closed. Estimated at the end of the year, if everybody spends their money, the only money that I know for sure we will not be spending would be the 100,000 that's allocated from here to the KCS sewer. We're still kind of working on that. So the projected revenue or projected fund balance at the end of 2023 is 135,530.18. Our proposed budget, we have interest of 4,000, and then I am, like I said, forwarding that 100,000 for that KCS sewer, and then whatever's left, it's 139,530.18 to be transferred to the road department as revenue loss. That 139,530, it's about 35,534. That's an interest on that account, and the 4,000 to be expected next year. And then this year we received 100,000. That is still all ARPA money. It is just a different source. It's called local governmental assistance. It was 100 grand that came in this year that it is to be used for matching funds. So that is the reason of transferring that to the road department for next year. And in doing this, pretty much the fund balance will be zero for next year and it'll be closed. Does anybody have questions on this?
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
I talked to Miss Lily yesterday. Why don't we just go ahead and take this money and recognize it as lost revenue, which I think we have enough room for as far as to satisfy ARPA, close it out for 2023 and allocate this money that she just mentioned where it's supposed to go. The road, road money go to roads, sewer money go to wherever sewer needs to be, and that's one less page, one less budget, one less recording, everything else we gotta worry with.
I understand what you're saying, and you're saying to do it. Basically what you're saying then is to amend the 2023 ARPA budget to show these changes in this year.
So we can throw this away.
So you can throw that away, whereas if we do this,
And we get rid of a bunch of stuff next year that she needs to do paperwork wise. I know we have till next year to spend it,
right,
but we also have the we're not getting any more ARPA money. And we also, if I understand correctly, we have the room, the headroom, if you will, now to just take it as recognized lost revenue and be done with it.
Miss Lilly,
Yes, sir.
opinion?
I mean, I will go with whatever y'all decide.
Which is the easiest?
The easier probably would be to go ahead and transfer it now. I mean, as far as bookkeeping, just going ahead and do that.
Okay,
Because it all is transfer has revenue loss. So, it's not necessarily going to a particular project. But in doing this, I do hope to be able to, like I said, have it completely done or spent at least by April, because it's when we do our reporting that it's been spent to whatever that may be. And I mean, I usually just have to put transfer for revenue loss, but if my auditors come and ask, they're gonna wanna know where it went. So I have to make sure that that the projects are complete, if that makes sense.
The only project I know that ain't gonna be complete by April is the sewer. And that's the biggest part of this money is the sewer,
Correct.
and it won't be complete by then.
But we recognize it as lost revenue, and she writes lost revenue in April on the report, and it's done, right?
I can't answer that question, I'm sorry.
I mean, you can
You
still,
do. I'm just telling you that.
don't you
has-
have to report December 31?
No, it's April.
That's the
In
next-
April, yes, you report for December, pretty much. For December, whatever you spend as of December, 2023. In any other way, it's being, if we don't spend it or transfer it, it's being held as deferred revenue in the ARPA fund. So, I mean, you're still not showing it as revenue or anything on the ARPA fund because it's in deferred revenue until you spend it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying, I mean, there's just no reason to keep carrying something over and over and over and having Michael give us balances of ARPA funds every administrator report and.
Well, with this, really, y'all will not have there will be really nothing left on ARPA other than the KCS Community Center sewer.
And with that being said, we can find a place for the 100,000 to go, knowing that that's what. As soon as we do that budget, we're fixing to allocate that 100,000 anyway, correct?
As soon as we do which budget?
Whatever the,
The
The
general
Probably
fund,
general
the
fund.
general fund
whatever the
is-
100,000 falls under.
Yeah, the general fund will show the ARPA money going to the sewer system, won't it?
You can do it either way, I mean, because the whole allocation for the sewer project was 250,000. So
Right.
the rest was coming out of the general fund. So in essence, you could transfer this 100,000 into the general fund.
Has lost revenue.
Has lost revenue that we know it's going to be to cover the KCS sewer.
And then that satisfies your April.
Correct. I would just have to amend the 2023 ARPA for this year.
Yeah, we do it next month.
Is that okay with you?
That'll be fine.
Motion to close I don't know what we had to have a motion for.
We don't.
You don't have to do anything.
Don't have to
No
do
action.
anything.
Right.
Don't have to do anything. I
Next.
thought this was gonna be even easier, and Kyle wanted to complicate things a little bit.
We still got 5 to go.
Do we really?
4.
Yeah. Next one is the East Sewer Fund. That one, y'all just went ahead and did the letter authorizing us to send that to DEQ and the hospital stuff. The only reason I am presenting a budget again is because I don't know if we're actually gonna be able to close the fund at the end of the year. So I'd rather present y'all a budget and we can amend that for next year than having to get our engineer department to hurry up and get everything closed for the year.
I make the motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the East Side Sewer budget. Any discussion? Y'all please vote as soon as she gets it on the screen.
Don't get mad. I know you want to talk more.
Because there will be some expense of this, net increase next. Because we do have to close the site, so
Correct.
remediate.
Remediation, yes, sir.
Office of Community Service.
Okay, on this one, our projected fund balance is 150,600. $62. This would be, like I told y'all before at the Monday meeting, asking for an amendment to transfer $120,000 for this year into that fund. Programs revenues for 2024 are estimated to be $1.249 with $10. The budget expenses, we're looking at $1,439,309. Capital outlays of $27,000. That is to replace a vehicle that was totaled in a wreck here a few months ago, I think about a month or so ago. So expenditures, total expenditures is $1,466,309, and proposing to transfer $120,000 again for 2024. The net decrease on fund balance is $97,299, with the ending fund balance projected to be at $53,463. They are currently fully staffed at 13 and a half positions. On the revenue side, the sources, you'll see the HUD administration revenue projected to be at $155.28. Projected balance, or projected proposed for 2024 is $142,836. This number actually comes from HUD. We get a monthly disbursement schedule that gives me a few months, so I'm just basing on what we have currently and doing times 12 months. Weatherization expected to be at $551,938 for DHS. Then you got supplemental expected to be at $2,952.96. DOE weatherization $134,069. For those for next year proposed, these numbers are coming from the actual grant that they signed. So they're receiving for DHHS $639,536, DHS supplement $4,500, DOE $224,577. Our other major programs is LAHEAP. Projected result for revenue is $94,628, with a proposed budget of $120,161. Once again, that is coming from their actual awards that they received, their grant awards. CSBG projected to be at $76,782. Their proposed award for next year is $109,000. All in all, the federal revenues for that is $1,102,774. And then the transfer for $120,000, that is due to some of the programs are based on allocation fees that they don't cover certain things, so the police jury is having to pick those up. On the expense side, you will see on the salaries, and will be a little bit confusing. We had several audits for most of the projects. Yes, Mr. Baker?
On your transfers in, why does it show 120 twice?
Okay, that is my proposal for this year. We'll have to transfer $120,000.
To fix 23?
Yes.
Okay.
And then for next year, it'll be another $120,000.
Okay.
That's what I was, earlier explaining to you, that
Right,
I didn't
right.
know the reason behind it until I went ahead and started dividing all these funds and learned a lot this year. We had several audits on all of them and went over different items that they do not reimburse us directly. So any of that, the jury has to absorb and pick up. So I have broken on the expense side pretty much into the project stuff. The first one we have is OCS. And you'll see, like I said, right now we have it all together, all the programs, all their salaries except for weatherization. But most of those programs have acts that we go ahead and separate by programs. So for OCS, the proposed budget is $95,196.53. The salaries on here is covering 3 personnel in OCS, the receptionist, the office manager, and, well, I believe 2 receptionists. OCS is pretty much picking up 5% of their salaries and their benefits, because those particular 3 work with CSBG and LAHEAP, and their percentage on that, one's 30%, one's 65%. I believe, I didn't bring my list, but we're picking up 5% of their salaries. The insurance for the building, the property and casualty, that's $15,000 that the police jury's picking up. The miscellaneous expense that you see for $45,000, that is a combination of utility bills, supplies, anything that is not covered by the programs itself, that's a direct program. We have an allocation percentage that is divided. So the police jury is picking up about 27% allocation on what they call indirect expenses. So it's roughly $95,000 that the OCS is putting from the police jury. Then you have your HUD program. We're spending about $195,449 out of there. It serves, they have 1 full-time person and a part-time person, and then Ms. Gladys's salary is split across to all these programs. If you see the HUD program is bringing in $142,836 for admin fee on your revenue section in the first sheet. You see that $142,836. That is what we get from HUD to cover this $195. So you can see where that's short, that program is not 100% fully funded. The CSBG program, we're spending $115,730. Our revenue on that program that we're bringing is $109. So there's a difference on that. That is another program, like I said, that it's not dollar per dollar. LAHEAP, we're spending $163,950. If you look at the revenue side of that, we're bringing $120,000 on revenue. The only program in OCS that I've spoken with, I think Mr. Baker and Kyle, that's 100% reimbursable is weatherization. You break it down, the DHS weatherization is $677,794.45. And then DOE weatherization is $186,897, and the supplement is $4,290. And what they're bringing in, you'll see in the federal section of the revenues, you see they're bringing $639,536. Supplement is bringing $4,500, and DOE is bringing $224,577. That is the only program, after looking, that it is 100% reimbursable. All the other programs are not 100% reimbursable, so whatever the difference is, OCS is, by OCS, I mean the parish is transferring that money. And like I said, you'll see the capital outlay for $27,000 for that vehicle. The insurance adjuster's going out there tomorrow to the road department, so I will have an idea of how much money we're gonna get back from that to be able to put that to offset this $27,000. I know this is a program that's a lot to take in. let me know if y'all have any questions, and I'll try my best. If not, Miss Gladys can come help me.
Was the vehicles ours, or was it a lease?
Yes.
It was actually still one of
Yes,
ours.
no fleet lease is eligible to be used at OCS because they're taxed, the way the grants are written. We have to own those vehicles. Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions?
How, and even after our conversation on this, I'm still fuzzy. Probably will never be completely clear on all this. How do we ensure that the majority of our 120,000 that we're transferring in is benefiting people that put the money there, DeSoto Parish residents? Is there a way? I mean, I want to make sure that 110 of it is not covering stuff we're doing outside the parish.
Well, I mean, like I said, the majority of the funding that's going into that is mainly your property and casualty insurance for the building, the utility for the building, like the operational maintenance of the building stuff. And I know 5% of 3 people's salaries is going towards that. Other than that, like
So we're not paying for projects outside or no
No, sir.
assistance
No,
outside the
sir.
parish?
You're paying for indirect costs that the programs will not cover. Some of these programs
Okay.
only give you about 10% for admin fee. Everything else goes to the program itself.
That's fine.
Like I said, next year we'll have a better picture. This is the first year where I'm dividing in order to see what's going where.
I got you. Thank you.
You know, I asked them in the meeting earlier to see how much of these programs and which ones that were just the parent parish, I guess you'd say, or whatever, and see what the other parishes that we're helping serve are doing, and if there might be a way that we can get an administrative fee from the other parishes to offset our 120. But most of the biggest projects that we do outside this parish is weatherization, which is 100% covered. So we don't know yet how much of this other is going outside the parish that we might be able to go talk to them and hold our hand out.
I so move.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the Office of Community Services budget. Any further discussion? When it pops up, please vote.
Our next one is the rental assistance fund. The projected beginning balance of that is $27,360. General revenues is $500. Program revenues is $1,010,617. Our expenses are $1,009,502. A net increase of $1,615. Projected balance of $28,975. This is our HUD Section 8 voucher program. It is 100% reimbursable on this, and you will see on the expenses side of this that $142,836 that gets transferred to OCS has an administration fee for us overseeing the program. There's, like I said, not much as far as the revenue. We get a voucher from them saying this is how much we're submitting to you on a month-to-month basis. The portability payments received, this year we did get some payments from another parish. On my estimated, on column D, you see a credit of $1,050. That is because we got one of those participants that we're having to pay that back. There were some issues with that Ms. Gladys could probably explain better than I can. On the interest allocation, you see a credit of $2,161. U.S. Treasury requires only for us to have $500 in that account. Anything else that we earn on that, we have to pay it back to them. But on the expenditure side, you just see all where we're getting paid for vouchers. We're just going ahead and sending those out. Does anybody have questions on this?
Got any?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please vote. Any of you not in favor, you can vote. Motion passes.
Okay, on the sales tax, this is really a washing fund. We get the revenues and expense those out to the different departments in the library. My 2024 budget revenue projection is $17,010,000. Out of that is $270,000 expenses for administrative fees, and then transferring now $16,740,000. Out of that, the road department gets 50%. So I'm projecting their revenue at $8,370,000. And then for the library, they get 25%. Their projection for next year is $4,185,000. Solid waste gets 15%. Projections for next year is $2,511,000. Transfers to the jail is 10%, and that gives me a proposed budget of $1,674,000. Proposing revenues on sales tax, I'm basing it on what we have at the projection of the year, $17,603,359. Just being a little bit more conservative and doing the 17 million. And then interest on the account is 10,000 projections. Any questions on that?
No questions, but Mr. Baker, I'd strongly recommend next year the jury look at the possibility of, and I think Ms. Lilly first suggested this, and I think it went over most of our heads in that meeting, but you could, in 1981 is when they passed the makeup of where those taxes go. I would strongly suggest that y'all look at and find a happy medium with the library in particular. You know, once
Loads up next year?
once they build, yeah, but don't we control? Don't we have? Yeah. So I mean, what I'm getting at is they have maintenance cost and personnel cost, but they don't have to build new libraries every year, and they don't build new libraries every year. So you might be able to adjust that to a comfortable number that the library board can still live and eat, but apply the rest to the jail and be able to build your jail and fund it with no new taxes. But it would have to go to a vote of the public to
Right.
reallocate that.
Right,
That's what I'm saying.
right.
I'd recommend looking into.
Well,
it.
it's an avenue to look at for sure.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Y'all please vote now.
Hold on, I'm getting ahead of it.
You should have already had that up there.
Yes, it's a toss-up between who's gonna make the motion and who's not.
They wouldn't really care if you got them backwards.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor say aye.
So are we good for a Thursday meeting next week at 5 for animal control? And then I have criminal court, witness and juror, correctional facility, jail, and sinking fund.
Have Jody text us.
Okay.
I didn't bring my calendar, so I don't know.
I think Mr. Baker and I discussed though for us just to kind of see that it'll be every
Be on
Thursdays.
We
And-
just leave it on Thursday until we're
I
done.
think I'm fine with that, but I mean, if she'll text us
Yeah.
in the morning,
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
respond
Yeah.
yes or no.
Okay, thank y'all,
If not, we'll move it.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure I am, but.
Okay.
thank
I
y'all.
appreciate y'all being here.